በደቡብ ክልል 23 የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎች ያሉ ሲሆን
በደቡብ ምዕራብ ሸዋ ዞን በወሊሶ ከተማ ተገኝተናል። በዚህ ዞን ከ300,000 በላይ መራጮች
እኛም እዚህ አፋር በመገኘት በአፋር የሚካሄደውን ሂደት ወደ እናንተ እናጋራችኋለን። ታምራዬ ወንድማገኝ ነኝ ከአፋር አባአላ።
በኢሉ አባቦር ዞን ሁለት የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎችና 3 የግል እጩዎች ይወዳደራሉ። በዞኑ በ6 የምርጫ ክልሎች 506 የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች ይገኛሉ።
በአማራ ክልል ምዕራብ ጎንደር ዞን ለስድስተኛው ዙር ጠቅላላ ሀገር አቀፍ ምርጫ 2 የምርጫ ክልሎችና 170 የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች ተዘጋጅተዋል። 10 የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎችም ይሳተፋሉ ተብሎ ይጠበቃል።
ለስድስተኛው ሀገራዊ ምርጫ በኦሮሚያ ክልል ባሌ ዞን 552 የሚሆኑ የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች
ከኢትዮጵያ ብሮድካስቲንግ ኮርፖሬሽን በእለቱ በአቦቦ የምርጫ ክልልና በአካባቢው ያሉ የምርጫ ዘገባዎችን ወደ እናንተ እናደርሳለን።
ከፋ ዞን ከ428,000 በላይ ዜጎች ተመዝግበዋል። ንብረት የተወነነኝ ከቦንጋ።
Hello once again, I'm Tabitha John and you're watching ETV English's special coverage on the 6th general election Ethiopia is conducting today. My colleague Solomon Danye joins me here in the studio and together we'll be discussing on the election process so far. In addition, we'll present you with the latest news in the middle of our discussion. Solomon, today is an important day for Ethiopia as the country is arguably holding its first free and fair election. The country had passed through so many challenges to be able to conduct elections today. We can recall that the elections had been postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, not to mention external pressures to postpone the elections and the internal conflicts that were rocking the country. So today is a milestone in our country's democratization endeavors. Can you tell us an overview of the process so far? Tell us your observations.
Well, as you rightly said, it's a very critical election for the future of Ethiopia. Well, when it comes to the process, voting has been going well so far. We've been witnessing long queues in different polling stations here in Addis Ababa and in the countryside. People are still going to polling stations in big numbers to cast their ballots to whatever party they want to choose peacefully. We haven't received any kind of disruption or intimidation so far, except some uncertainties or irregularities in the state of Amhara and the southern nations, nationalities and people state. Burtukam Mideksa, chair of the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia, gave a press briefing a little bit earlier, and she indicated that there was some irregularity or uncertainty in these 2 regional states, and will be playing what she said a little bit later. Prominent politicians from both the ruling party and the contesting political parties have also been casting their ballots. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed casted his ballot in his birthplace Bashasha in the Juma state, the Juma zone of the Oromia state. The scene was really amazing to see people. He was surrounded by a huge mass. People were trying to take pictures with him. They were pushing each other to touch him, and he said something after casting his ballot, and we'll also be playing what he said a little bit later. Professor Birhanu Nagga, leader of the Ethiopian Social Justice Party, Engineer Sleshi Bekele, Minister of Water, Irrigation and Energy from Prosperity, and also the country's President Sahle-Work Zewde have also casted their ballots so far. Chiefs of different regional states have also casted their ballots in their respective polling stations. Our colleague Demis Makrel was at the polling station where President Sahle-Work Zewde casted her ballot, and also I heard that Olusegun Obasanjo, the former Nigerian president, was there to observe the process, and he will tell us about his observation. Good to have you, Demis, here.
Thanks for having me, Solomon and Tabitha.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about the process?
Okay, as you rightly said previously, Ethiopians are today casting their vote to pick up, regional and national parliamentarians, and obviously the voting kicked off early in the morning, like 6 a.m. And since that time, you know, voters are taking long lines and waiting for their turn to cast their ballots.
That was actually a complaint of so many people, the long queues to vote. I heard that the logistics were missing, they were late. They came at around 8 a.m. and that's why the lines were long.
Yeah, I think that could be one reason, but the other reason is the voter turnout is really good, and people are, you know, turning out to cast their vote. So, you know, a number of people are coming to polling stations, so the number is really huge.
Interesting.
So that is another factor as well. So in the area where I have been, that is actually in Kirkuk sub-city, you know, polling station 4 and 5 named, where President of Ethiopia, Sahle-Work Zewde, casted her vote in polling station 4. She was there and she casted her vote, and after, you know, she voted the party she wanted, and she gave a kind of press briefing, and in that briefing she mentioned a number of things actually. Ethiopia, the election Ethiopia conducting today is not an end in itself. The election opens up a chapter for Ethiopia for massive work ahead. She said a number of things, but before I go deeper into that, I think we have to take some time. Let us take a moment and listen what she had to say.
Good.
Indeed. Perfect.
ፓርላማን ስከፍት ባለፈው ጊዜ ባደረኩት ንግግር
When I opened the parliament last time, I said this election should be better than the previous elections. I hope that this election could be better in different criteria. I'm really surprised due to the large number of voters here. This is really the manifestations of Ethiopian people's commitment to ensure their democratic rights. In a democratic process, election is a big issue. But it's one and the only part of the process. But it's not a goal by itself. When we finish this election, tomorrow is another day. Therefore, we all Ethiopians should stand in unison to address other challenges of our country. All political parties should respect the votes of Ethiopians. If political parties defeated an election, it means a preparation to the upcoming another election campaign. My long experience tells me that all things should be seen as the context of the country. I said tomorrow is bright. We should cooperate to rise our country.
መሸነፍ ማለት ለሌላ ጊዜ መዘጋጀት ማለት ነው እንጂ ከጨዋታ መውጣት አይደለም.
Well, this election is actually the first experience for President Sahle-Work. She was a diplomat for a long time outside of Ethiopia. Of course, Ethiopia conducted an election since 1991. EPRDF came to power, overthrowing the Derg regime. Ethiopia conducted 5 rounds of elections. In all those 5 rounds of elections, the president had not privilege or opportunity to participate in election in Ethiopia, and this is for the first time she got the opportunity to be part of the election process, and she feel amazed, and she expressed that feeling actually. And the message she underlined today is winning election is not a success in itself, and losing the election is not a dead end, but a new beginning for peaceful struggle in the coming 5 years ahead.
Exactly. Especially we have to focus on not only the election but what comes after the elections in terms of accepting the results of the elections. I think we Ethiopians have to be committed really to more than accepting the results, because the election is not an end by itself, but it's a beginning. So what can you tell us in terms of accepting the results of the election?
Yeah, she called on actually political parties to accept the result whatsoever it may be, winners and losers. She said both winners and losers are important to Ethiopia. Not only winners but losers are also important to Ethiopia, and for the betterment of Ethiopia, both parties have to work together, and that is a key message she underlined in her today's speech after the election. The other thing we mentioned was the African Union election observation mission was also in the same area where President Sahle-Work casted their vote, and it was actually led by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. It comprises around 24 members from, not 24 members, members from 24 African countries.
Yes,
members from 24 African countries. And President Obasanjo says he traveled across around 12 polling stations here in Addis.
Okay.
And he presented his observation classified into two sections. And the first section, he talked about the pre-election preparation. During the pre-election preparation, he mentioned a number of things. He met with actually different actors. For instance, he met with political parties, the National Electoral Board, the Ministry of Defense and Police, and the Judiciary part. He met with all those parties and exchanged views concerning the election preparation. And in that specific part, Obasanjo says the election preparation was well, according to his observation. In spite of that, but he also mentioned some handicaps. Before I jump to mention those handicaps, let us take a moment again.
Yeah, and also, since we mentioned that the president herself voted, the prime minister has also casted his ballot at Beshashat Jimma zone in the state of Oromia. Let me read this news and then we'll continue our discussion.
We can, of course.
Okay.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has casted vote in Beshasha Jimma zone in the state of Oromia. Speaking on the occasion, the Premier said the 6th general election across the country is the manifestation of a new democracy to the nation. Well, talking to ETV, Abiy expressed his admiration to all contesting political parties.
Sorry for interrupting you, Tabitha. I think the director is telling me that the Obasanjo clip is ready before that
we'll
news.
Get to this later.
We should proceed.
Yeah, we can proceed to that. Yeah, of course.
This election, in spite of the handicaps, and I will talk about the handicaps in a moment, has been a lot better than elections in the past in terms of opening more space for election participation or electoral participation. The handicaps, of course, are understandable. Security have been one of the handicaps. Pandemic have been one of the handicaps. A little bit on the logistics side, a little bit on the time, even that the election organization had to take. But everything taken together, the election organizing bodies have done their best within the handicaps that I have mentioned. So preparation towards the election, in spite of the handicaps, have gone reasonably well.
በሲዳማ ክልል 12 የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎች በደቡብ ክልል 23 የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎች ያሉ ሲሆን
በደቡብ ምዕራብ ሸዋ ዞን በወሊሶ ከተማ ተገኝተናል። በዚህ ዞን ከ300 ሺህ በላይ መራጮች
እኛም እዚህ አፋር በመገኘት በአፋር የሚካሄደውን ሂደት ወደ እናንተ እናጋራችኋለን። ታምራየ ወንድማገኝ ነኝ ከአፋር አባአላ።
በኢሉ አባቦር ዞን ሁለት የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎችና 3 የግል እጩዎች ይወዳደራሉ። በዞኑ በ6 የምርጫ ክልሎች 506 የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች ይገኛሉ።
በአማራ ክልል ምዕራብ ጎንደር ዞን ለስድስተኛው ዙር ጠቅላላ ሀገር አቀፍ ምርጫ 2 የምርጫ ክልሎችና 170 የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች ተዘጋጅተዋል። 10 የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎችም ይሳተፋሉ ተብሎ ይጠበቃል።
ለስድስተኛው ሀገራዊ ምርጫ በኦሮሚያ ክልል ባሌ ዞን 552 የሚሆኑ የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች
ከኢትዮጵያ ብሮድካስቲንግ ኮርፖሬሽን በእለቱ በአቦቦ የምርጫ ክልልና በአካባቢው ያሉ የምርጫ ዘገባዎችን ወደ እናንተ እናደርሳለን።
ከፋ ዞን ከ428 ሺህ በላይ ዜጎች ተመዝግበዋል። ንብረት የተሆነ ነኝ ከቦንጋ።
In the story I was mentioning earlier, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has casted vote in Beshasha Jimma zone in the state of Oromia. Speaking on the occasion, the Premier said the 6th general election across the country is the manifestation of new democracy to the nation. Talking to ETV, Abiy expressed his admiration to all contesting political parties to come and take part in the election without pessimistic thoughts about Ethiopia.
ምርጫ ስድስተኛው ሀገራዊ ምርጫ በብዙ መልኩ የሚያስደምም ነው።
The 6th general election is differing with other elections in the past. We have many media houses across the country. There were no Oromia Media Network, Fana, Walta and other media houses in 2005 election. There was only one media, that is ETV. Thus, this media institution are broadcasting the 6th general election without any problem. This is unique feature in Ethiopia history. I want to express all contesting political parties for their trustworthy and to take part in the election.
Well, you're watching our special coverage on the 6th general elections Ethiopia is holding today. It's a very critical election the country is holding right now. We'll proceed with our discussion.
Exactly. Solomon, as we were mentioning earlier, the government of Ethiopia has invested a lot in this election, especially the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia has been investing a lot. Can we talk a few things about that?
Yeah, I think that's the critical issue that we need to talk about. Whenever election draws near in Africa, panic spreads everywhere. And we have seen deadly elections in the past many years in Africa and in Ethiopia. In the past 5 elections, there were irregularities. The elections were marked by irregularities, and especially in the 2005 election, we've seen appalling things that we were not meant to see. People were killed, politicians were imprisoned, many were intimidated by the incumbent. So having these in mind, having these indelible marks in mind, it's normal for anybody to fear that this election may result in something bad. But there are things that makes this election different from the previous elections, and the first one is the establishment of independent institutions like the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia. Previously, it was, we can say, an instrument of the ruling party to conduct a false election to cajole the international community. But now it's different. The woman in the helm of the board is a strong woman that everyone can believe in her integrity. So it's the board has been established in a very amazing way. We can say that the electoral board of Ethiopia should be 100% perfect at this time, because it was a very short period of time to re-establish itself, and also it's a bit difficult to conduct an election in a country like Ethiopia where more than 100 million people dwell. So it's tough to conduct such a huge election amidst problems of peace, amidst fears, huge fears. So we should appreciate what the Electoral Board of Ethiopia has been doing so far, and also the justice system is improving. If we are to survive, we need to make this election peaceful, and we need to start to rely on our justice systems. This election might not be free, might not be fair or democratic, but it must be peaceful. We should not resort to violence, insurrection or conflict to deal with the problems that we're raising. We need to start to trust our institutions, like the justice system, like the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia. In the past 2 or 3 years, in the past couple of years, we have seen enough. We have had enough revulsion.
Okay.
We have seen.
So let's talk about the political space. And how was the race towards the end of the election? How was the campaigning process? And let's also talk about the funding. I hear that the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia had allocated more funds to contesting political parties, more than in the previous 5 elections. And how was that?
We can recall that the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Saturday said the government has been responding to every query of the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia. It has been providing finance if that surpasses the budget of the 5 previous elections combined. So that shows the commitment of the government to make this Electoral Board of Ethiopia, this institution, as strong and independent institutions. I think we're running out of time. It's better to wrap it up here. And let's
move on to the next news story. Board chair of the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia, Burtukan Mideksa, said the country is undertaking successful election in different parts of the country. Revealing the first phase report of the election day, she said the country is witnessing such a successful and peaceful election process. Take a listen to her.
Good day for voters as well as contenders of this election. I thus congratulate all for that. I want to explain that the first phase of the election is going well with no security threat except a single case in Ambo where election has temporarily been interrupted and only 1 polling station. But no serious problem happened. I hope we will rerun that again. Voters have been taking part in the election process in a very peaceful manner since early in the morning. Everything began as per its timetable. However, we witnessed that close to 9 polling stations in Addis Ababa could not meet the deadline to open the vote. These election executives lack responsibility in this regard, but the election board addressed it as soon as possible.
Various voters across the nation are casting their ballots starting from early in the morning at 6 a.m. at various polling stations all over the country. During the occasion, the voters said they are very happy for voting their choice of political party.
I have arrived early in the morning here. We were waiting for this election day for long. Here I have also arrived at 5 a.m. in the early morning, just like my friend. The reason why I have come here is to vote early and to go to my work and accomplish successfully. I am a resident of this district, and in accordance with the call of the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia yesterday, I have arrived early in the morning, that is at 5:30 a.m. at this place. It is not easy. Election is not an easy task. It is a matter of country, and it is a matter of the people. And we wish to all Ethiopians to obtain peace, prosperity, and happiness. Honestly speaking, the people surprises me because high turnout of people have come early at 11 a.m. Besides, I saw persons with disabilities and the elderly people to vote their leaders. As I was waiting for this day being suspense, I now have voted my party, which I believe it could lead the country, and I would like to leave my message to the other to come and vote.
በቤንች ሸኮ ዞን ተገኝተናል። አስማር ብርሃኑ ነኝ ከቤንች ሸኮ ዞን ሚዛን አማን።
በደቡብ ወሎ ዞን 22 የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች የሚገኙ ሲሆን በ21ዱ ምርጫ እንደሚካሄድ ይጠበቃል። በተለይ ደግሞ በዚሁ በደቡብ ወሎ ዞን 1600 በላይ የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች የሚገኙ ሲሆን
በስድስተኛው ሀገር አቀፍ ምርጫ በምዕራብ ሐረርጌ በተለይ በጭሮ በደሳና ሂርና እንዲሁም ሌሎች በዞኑ ያሉ አካባቢዎች መረጃዎች ወደናንተ ማድረሳችሁ አቤል ሙሉጌታ ነኝ።
ለስድስተኛው ሀገር አቀፍ ምርጫ ሁለት የምርጫ ክልሎችና 220 የምርጫ ጣቢያዎች በተዘጋጁበት በጎንደር ከተማ 12 የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎች ይወዳደራሉ። ከጎንደር ስለ ስድስተኛው ሀገር አቀፍ ምርጫ ለሚተላለፉ መረጃዎች ራሄል ፍሬው።
በዚህ በቤንሻንጉል ጉሙዝ ክልል አሶሳ ዞንና ማኦኮሞ ልዩ ወረዳ
እኔም ጥበቡ ይርዳው ለተመሳሳይ ዓላማ በአማራ ክልል የአዊ ብሔረሰብ ዞን አስተዳደር እንጅባራ ከተማ አገኛለሁ።
እዚህ ደቡብ ጎንደር ብቻ 1 ሚሊዮን የሚጠጋ መራጭ ተመዝግቧል። ተመስገን እንዳለ ከደብረ ታቦር።
You are watching ETV English's special coverage on the 6th general election Ethiopia is holding today. We'll continue updating you on the latest developments as they unfold. But for now, it's a goodbye from me, Tabitha John, myself, and Solomon Danyi, my colleague. We will be back shortly.